Good afternoon or evening, and welcome. Kensington Senior Living has 8 unique communities, 5 located in Virginia, Maryland, and New York, and 3 sister communities located in California. Kensington is truly privileged to support partners from coast to coast. Kensington focuses on relationship-based care, care built on the foundation of our promise to love and care for your family as we do our own. It is programs such as the one you are attending now that are so important for those of us walking through a caregiver journey, to hear from expert professionals on keeping us current with the latest advances in care, management, and treatment of conditions that affect seniors and their families. I was first introduced to the Kensington family over 10 years ago, as my father was a resident there for over 7 years. Everyone that registered for today's event will receive a copy of the webinar to share with friends and family. Please also utilize the Q&A function for today's webinar to submit questions to our fabulous presenters. Let's together think about what 2026 holds in store for us as individuals in our community. Today, you're in for a treat with Dr. James and our Melissa Long, Tammy Anastasia, and Lisa Bricker. Dr. James, please join me and welcome.
Hello, Susan.
Hello. Happy
It
New
is
Year.
Happy New Year to you, my friend. It's so good to see you. What an honor. Thank you.
It's great to see you. Before we kick off, I'd like for Dr. James to share with you something that I am super intrigued with, that he has he is the brainchild behind. And that is a saying. And I think it's so important to really keep this in your heart and your soul. And the saying is no days off. Now, Dr. James, I'd love for you to talk about that. Let me start with saying it doesn't mean no days off, doing things you don't want to do, like exercise or this or that. You just spend a few minutes talking about really what does no days off mean for us in 2026?
Absolutely, Susan. And I know when you hear that, it sounds a little intimidating and maybe even like, oh my gosh, really? I need a day off. And I think that for a lot of us, as we begin a new year, hopefully we're feeling a sense of openness. And I feel like the thing that I've been learning over the last 30 plus years as a clinician, working with literally thousands of patients, over 10,000 in my clinical history, and then having the opportunity to work with Kensington over these last 6 years, there's a lot of things I've realized. And I think many of us who are here tonight have probably found this to be one of the most sacred experiences of being in the caregiving world and the intimacy of what it is that you get a chance to learn about yourself. And one of the things I'm learning more and more about, Susan, is the power of presence and our ability to choose to be present, present with hard things and beautiful things, and the way in which life continues to teach us what it is that we know in our heart we want to evolve. So when I created the program No Days Off, it was based on the fact that I learned in my own life through working with folks in my hospice experience, treating dear friends and family members with cancer, with Alzheimer's, with ALS. The part of me that wanted to leave, the part of me that wanted to disassociate, I understood what that was really asking of me. It was asking for grace. And really tonight, Susan, and this afternoon, wherever you may be in this country, thank you for making time for us. This is an act of grace, coming here tonight, being here with us. Grace is a window that I believe is as much scientific as it is spiritual. What we know about grace is it has profound neurochemical impact on us, physiological impact. And there's something sacred about grace. And what I realized when I was creating No Days Off is that it's one of the things that we have a predictable opportunity to invite into our life. That's the unexpected nature of grace. So maybe tonight, as we kind of give ourselves permission to settle in and think about, wow, and I saw this Kensington invitation and I saw the title, Unexpected Grace. I didn't really know what to do with that. Well, you're here and you're here. I pray with all my heart, you are going to receive unexpected grace. Because one thing I do know about caregivers, as a person who's been working clinically in that space, and one who's been a son in that relationship, one who's been a best friend, a brother, and all of those relationships to caregiving, I know when I needed unexpected grace, I didn't realize how powerful it was until I gave it to myself. So, everyone tonight, please maybe give yourself permission to maybe surrender from all the human doing that you are so good at, and maybe give yourself an opportunity to invite this idea of grace. I want to share a little bit, Susan. You're going to love this. Everyone, so I'm a nerd. I want you all to know I'm very much a nerd. I love science. I love reading abstracts. I'm into research. I want to know all the things that are happening. So when I started learning about grace, and this happened 6 years ago, my dearest best friend in the whole world was diagnosed with ALS. And there were so many emotions that moved through me, and all the things that I felt like I had to like be heroic. I had to be heroic. I had to outlove my former self. I had to outgive my former self. I had to outserve my former self. And my best friend Paul said, James, give yourself some grace. We can do this. We can do this. Give yourself some grace. And so, because I love science, Susan, everyone to hear, I dug into grace. Here's what grace does for us. This is beautiful. It decreases stress. It lowers cortisol. It boosts dopamine, which is our neurotransmitter with motivation and helping us to rise into each and every moment. So dopamine is our way of showing up heart first. When we give ourselves grace, we're going to see how inflammatory processes that are associated with fear and judgment and resentment literally decrease. One of the most beautiful things about grace is it's on demand, and it's so beautiful, everyone. You get an opportunity to experience grace and simply just intentionally breathing differently. Rather than breathing from your upper chest, you go down in your diaphragm and you just say, I'm just taking a breath. I'm going to go ahead and let unexpected grace raise my dopamine, decrease my stress hormones. One of the harder things that I've seen when I've been working with patients is the unexpected grace that happens when we heroically take a moment, first thing in the morning. We look ourselves in the mirror, we drop the toothbrush, we drop the hairbrush, we drop all the things, and we simply just look at ourselves in the mirror and just softly see ourselves with the eyes of compassion. Herein lies grace. And what's so beautiful about this, as we see dopamine increase and serotonin increase, we also see this very beautiful thing. And I think this is something a lot of us are going to go, oh my gosh, do I need this right now? Don't y'all know that the world right now has never been heavier? We look around and we feel the heaviness. Then we look across and see a loved one. We go, oh my gosh, more heavy, more hard, more of all the things I'm trying to figure out. How do I navigate all of this? Well, when we give ourselves unexpected grace, this is really beautiful. The brain regions that are associated with empathy and emotional regulation literally light up. They've done research with functional MRIs. When someone is in a place of unexpected grace, the breath, the soft eyes, a prayer, a quick memory of someone who you know, you've been holding their dignity, you've been holding their memory as you watch their life change before your very eyes as they are changing and losing parts of the things that we've loved. All of that has an opportunity for unexpected grace. And what we know about this emotional regulation, it actually hits particularly our prefrontal cortex, is where we regulate our moments, where we remember who we are, who we would love to be. And that's where this idea of no days off came in, Susan. It's this whole idea about how do we use the blessing of our chemistry, the power of soul and spiritual work that we're all doing, and have a beautiful communion with the parts of ourselves that can predictably bring us back into that present moment awareness, where we don't want to leave those moments. We want to stand in those moments. We want to love in those moments. And what I love about the new year, and I love about fresh beginnings, is that there's a quantum, right, energetically across the planet right now. Everyone's thinking about something that's new, something that's fresh, something that's open. And yes, we look around our life and we see familiar things, hard things, but we feel a sense of hopefulness. And one of the things I've been really loving about this idea of no days off, in particular, our experience together tonight, I would love everyone to maybe kind of release any of the judgment, any of the resentments, any of the heaviness just for a moment, just for a moment, and give yourself permission to embrace a part of yourself that you know is that beautiful place that absolutely never, ever, ever gives up. Never, never, never doesn't see where the hope, the love, the possibility wants to come through. Lisa Miller, who's a dear, dear colleague of mine, she's out of Colombia. She has done this work on rituals, and we're going to talk a lot about rituals with our incredible faculty tonight. Lisa Miller talks about how it is that when someone can find one thing, and that's what I want everyone to really consider tonight. There's a whole list of things we can do to bring unexpected grace, to help us metabolize grief. But ultimately, we all get a chance to choose one thing that becomes the hallmark of our self-care and our self-love. Lisa Miller from Columbia would say, that's your ritual. And have that ritual, whether it's walking outside first thing in the morning and saying, good morning, God, versus good God morning, whether it's giving yourself permission to give yourself an opportunity to, before you go out and do the human doing, you just put your hand on your heart, you get your breath together, you look yourself softly in the eyes in the mirror, and you give yourself a moment for grace. You know what's happening neurochemically, you know what's happening physiologically. But here's something beautiful. Lisa Miller says, but we create a predictable upward spiral. And this is how she describes it. In this upward spiral, this one ritual, this one thing you give yourself every single day is the reinforcement of love and compassion for self and anyone who's in your circle of influence. It's neurochemical, it's physiological, and it's contagious. One ritual, you connecting with yourself, has a force field, like a force multiplier of how your power becomes your love and how your love becomes your essential power. She talks about how the amygdala, our place of fear, our place of judgment, resentment, quiets, and the other areas in our brain open up for compassion and acceptance. It's like we give ourselves a new lease on life every time we connect to this ritual. And ultimately, what I love about Lisa's work is what I love about the Kensington. The Kensington has taught me about the power of ritual, about giving families an opportunity to put their guard down, even for a moment, to know that a community of caregivers, and you're going to meet the world-class caregivers here in a moment, who are going to give you an opportunity to remind you about the work that you do every single day and that you're not alone, and that you have an opportunity to invite tonight, and hopefully tomorrow morning when you wake up, unexpected grace. You'll know the science. You've learned about that. But give yourself the opportunity of predictably inviting it into your life as we begin this new year. And I have a friend of mine who's really into, he's a beautiful acupuncturist, an amazing herbalist, Chinese medicine doctor. And he said, this is the year where we shed the skin of not enoughness.
The
It's
year of the snake.
the year of the snake, Susan. It ends literally in middle of February. And then the year of the horse steps in, which is an unexpected opportunity to invite in a vibrancy of soulful nature, of remembering the true power of who we are and bringing it to life in the micro moments of heart resonance. That is such a cool thing. And that is such a powerful idea. So if I may, can I briefly, Susan, introduce this amazing faculty that we have tonight?
Yes, you can, but I'm gonna jump off, but I have to read you something
Tell me.
that a woman who I have tremendous respect for, who has been taking care of her husband at home. And I did a talk yesterday kind of about my journey with my father with Alzheimer's and then my mother with Parkinson's. And she said to me, I'm reading a text right now, and it just really resonated with me. And I think our audience will understand this. One can feel crazy as they care for their loved ones and do it good to know that this disease is predictably unpredictable.
Mm.
And so when you talk about the predictions and expectation and all that stuff, I think it's so important, first of all, for everyone in the audience to give themselves a hug. But also, what you said about really navigating into 2026 is, let's look on the past year is what did we do good?
Hmm.
Rather than beating ourselves up about what are we going to change and what is our resolution, really celebrate yourselves and what you did good. But introduce the team, and then I will be back for all those questions the audience is going to ask in our Q&A. I've already answered two.
Susan, I love you. Thank you for having us. Thank you for being the catalyst for this amazing family of caregivers and this incredible world class faculty you've put together tonight. You are absolutely a blessing to me and everyone who knows you. Thank
I
you.
feel the same about you, and I've known you since 2014.
And look at us. We're aging
I
like
know. Exactly.
everyone, if you're wondering, yes, we did meet in high school. I was the junior varsity winter carnival queen king, and Susan, of course, was the winter carnival queen.
Yeah, of course, of
Of
course.
course.
Although I'm a little older than you. But introduce the team, and then I'll be back. Thank you again so much, everybody.
Thank you, everyone, and thanks everyone for coming. Everyone, can you all just pop on? I'm going to go ahead and as you all pop in, and everyone gets to see your beautiful light and your essence, I'm going to introduce each of you real briefly, and then hopefully you can say a few words about yourself, and then we're going to jump in, everyone. This is going to be absolutely amazing. First, I'd like to invite in Tammy Anastasia. Tammy, hello, good evening, good afternoon. You are awesome for being here.
Thank you for having me. And it's a pleasure and an honor to be here as well. And it's nice to meet you too, Dr. James, really, honestly.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So I am a dementia consultant and educator and the author of two books. My first book is Essential Strategies for the Dementia Caregiver, Learning to Pace Yourself. My second book, which you see right here, is Dementia Caregiving and Personal History, How to Cope, Help, Connect, and Heal. And I have a private practice, so both of my books are written on the experiences I have working with numerous family caregivers, especially. And I provide caregiver counseling, dementia guidance, care strategies, how to deal with the behavioral, cognitive changes, and emotional support. And I also facilitate several caregiver support groups, and I do a ton of speaking events on anything dementia related. So it truly is a pleasure and an honor to be here and to be joined by Melissa and Lisa and Monica and you.
Thank you, Tammy. Thank you very, I mean, my goodness. I can't wait to learn more. And we've already have questions coming in. So once we get an opportunity to introduce everyone, I'm going to come back to you because the questions are already coming in. Um, Next, I'd love to introduce you to Monica Moore. Monica, good afternoon where you are in LA.
Good
And
afternoon.
I would love to have you share with your incredible background because what a blessing it is to have you here with us today.
Great. Thank you, Dr. James, and thank you, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening to all of you who are here. So I work at UCLA at the Alzheimer's Research Center, the Mary S. Easton Center, where we have wonderful, brilliant neurologists who really take care of our patients, help with proper diagnosis, proper evaluation. We have amazing researchers who are trying to figure out the world of dementia and trying to find some inroads into these diseases. And we also have research and clinical trials. So looking at ways that we can try to help families with medications or other types of interventions. And the one piece that I work with is our caregiver support groups. We have we have 10 different caregiver support groups. I facilitate 5 of them. And it's just a journey. It's a blessing to be able to walk the journey with so many of my caregivers. I know some of them are here today. Hello. And I'm just really grateful to be able to have this space. I think this is wonderful. And also just the fact that people are here and willing to sort of look in a little bit. We're willing to take a moment to pause to be able to look in and reflect and to see how can we make some personal growth in 26. So I'm really excited about being here. So thank you very much to Kensington and for everyone else.
Thank you, Monica. It's an honor to have you here. Thank you. Next, inviting in Melissa Long. Melissa, are you here with us?
I am. Thank you
There
for
you
having
are.
me. And it's good to see you, Dr. James, and everyone else that is here. I'm over on the East Coast, in Northern Virginia in the DC metro area. I'm a recreational therapist, and a dementia educator. And so I do between dementia certifications to dementia topic presentations. But my bread and butter is being a recreational therapist, looking at the quality of life, having quality over quantity, and doing very person-centered programming with all of my clients that I work with, and tailoring even home assessments, for the families to give them that perfect space to go through this journey, whether it's for the caregiver or for the person with the diagnosis. And so thank you again for having me.
Melissa, I know just by connecting with you this way, what a blessing you are to the people that you work with, the families who've got had an honor to witness your love in action. Thank you.
Thank you.
And lastly, my dear friend, Lisa Bricker. I think it's good afternoon for
Good
Lisa.
afternoon in LA, Pasadena. Yes.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa Bricker. My company is called Gently Guided. We are a referral service for senior living options, and we specialize in Alzheimer's and dementia placement. I evolved into this work from years of being a life coach and leadership coach. And because my husband had Alzheimer's at a very young age of 55, and it took 7 years to get a diagnosis. And there was a long journey. It was 15 years in total. So it's just, I turned my life into a purpose, and it made my journey into a purpose. And it's such an honor and a privilege to be here to make a difference in other caregivers' lives near and far. So it's an honor to be with you, Dr. James. I think we're
Thank
gonna
you.
really have a wonderful session here
Yeah,
tonight.
you know what, Lisa, just listening to your voice, and I've had the joy of being with you on other occasions over the last number of years. And one of the things that I really believe tonight is all about this afternoon for some of you, and every single one of you have already touched on this. And this is a quote I believe Brene Brown said, which is vulnerability lets in light. Vulnerability lets in light. So hopefully everyone that's here with us today is giving themselves an opportunity to open up and allow light to come in. And I think about different experiences in my life clinically, and as a brother, a son, and a doctor to people I've loved over the years, and experienced different evolutions of loss, and had the different opportunities to witness the way vulnerability plays such a healing role, and our willingness to share stories and to open up those parts of ourselves that are not easy. But when we know that people have shared experiences, vulnerability has a chance to find its way. So hopefully we this evening, this afternoon, everyone who's with us, and thank you for making these moments for us to happen, we get an opportunity to express our vulnerability to ourselves first and foremost, and realize what's happening physiologically when we do that. And then think about the contagion of vulnerability, other people getting permission through your experience of stepping into that courageous and compassionate space of grace. So I'm going to begin because Tammy, a question came in immediately, which I think is going to be perfect for you. And with that big smile, I can tell the zeal. Here comes the zeal. Okay.
Uh-oh, I'm bracing.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And this hits. My God, this hits right out of the gate. Tammy, how do we give ourselves grace whenever we are consumed with guilt?
Great question. So they're both G's, right? Guilt and grace.
Mm.
So in my practice, I think the one thing that I strive for is that this journey can be very, very challenging on so many levels, but it can also be transformative. And this journey gives us an opportunity to change the messaging. It gives us an opportunity to rewrite the script and change our self-talk. So guilt is something that I see day in and day out. And caregivers are just lovely people. We're all human. We're all doing the best that we can. And for as automatic as guilt is, you want to question, where does the guilt come from? Is it self-imposed expectation? Is it cultural expectations? A lot of it's family messaging. A lot
Mm.
of it could be also, in my case, I grew up Catholic. Oh my God. I used to say, so Tammy, what's your middle name? Guilt, Tammy Guilt, Anastasia. I mean, I know guilt very well. And at some point in my life, I'm like, I'm working too hard to be a good person. I'm
Mm.
working too hard to be kind and compassionate and supportive. So many people. But the one enemy I have is myself. And I thought, wow, how about I turn some of those skills that I give to others? What if I start changing how I care for myself, but more importantly, how I talk to myself? I'm not perfect, will never be perfect, but grace is about rewriting the messaging. It's finding language that supports what you're doing versus guilt that takes it away. And it's about spending time and being patient with yourself. Every single person today has the skills to be loving, caring, compassionate, and kind. And the one person we don't give that back to is ourselves. And that is what gives us grace. And eventually, that messaging, that self talk, for as easy as it is to feel guilty and have guilt take over, replace the messaging. And if you can't say something nice, don't say something negative, at least make it neutral and
Mm.
start with neutral because it's not good or bad. I am who I am. And we have a true self and we have the expected self. And there's a lot of conflict. Expected self is what people expect from me, cultural, again, messaging, family messaging. But grace is a learned skill. And we have to give ourselves permission to learn the skills that we give to so many and apply to ourselves. So,
Tammy,
yeah,
wow.
go ahead.
My goodness, when I think about everything you just shared, the wisdom there, the biggest thing that really hits for me is this whole idea of the practice of grace, right? Is
Yeah.
there is a neuroplasticity. We talked in our introduction about how when we're practicing grace, there is neuronal activity. There's restructuring in our brain that as the practice continues, and as a former altar boy myself, my goodness, I can walk into church, and I haven't been to church in a while, but my goodness, those prayers pop in. I know the dogma. I know how to do the practice.
Yeah.
So I think as part of that grace, Tammy, if you can help us to really understand, like, there's so much beauty in the practice, and every time we're practicing, there's this beautiful self-efficacy of gaining favor with yourself, gaining faith in yourself. And that's the beauty, because I think we're in this place where instant gratification is so much of what we're trained to believe. And this one doesn't work this way. This is incremental over time, growing and evolving, and having this eventually become not so unexpected. And it's more of an expected grace.
Yeah, think about how we are so supportive of people we love, our children, our best friends, and the one we do the most damage to is what we say to ourselves.
Mhm.
Mm.
Like, wait a minute, we're all equal. No one's better or worse than. We're all equal, all trying to do the best that we can. So I get the opportunity to help clients rewrite the script. And maybe by the time this journey is over, and as you're traveling this journey, there is a say the things to yourself that you wish other people would tell you. Say the things that you wish your parents would have said. Say the things that make you feel good. Say messaging that supports everything you do. And some days are going to be better than others. A bad day doesn't make you a bad person.
Mm.
And we don't have control over so many things. But the one thing this journey can give us is time to be self-reflective in a positive way rather than in a negative way. Negative is too easy. You want to say to yourself, take a pause and say, you know what, that's not okay anymore. Just even not okay. Not okay. How can I say something that supports me and my efforts and my time and my patience and my love and my compassion? And that is key, but it's a learned skill. I wish I could take a magic wand and just boop, 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 boop. People ask me, if you had three wishes. Well, my first wish is replace guilt with grace and self-love because we all deserve that. And people say, well, I don't want to become cocky. I don't want to get self-centered. Trust me, you will not be self-centered. You will not become cocky by any means. What you'll do is you'll find an inner peace that you are as human and lovely as those that you're surrounded by. And you count and you matter and you're beautiful
Wow.
just as much as the person right next to you.
Tammy, there's so much wisdom in this, and I'm sure for everyone who's listening, we hear that and we hear about the idea of languaging and the words that we use either for or against ourselves. And I was reading research where the average person has somewhere between 80 and 90,000 thoughts a day.
Yeah.
Or they say the vast majority, we're somewhere between 86 and 92% of
Wow.
those are recycled, and typically more coming from a negative judgmental place
Yep.
towards ourselves. And, you know, it's interesting because as you're sharing this, I'm thinking about, and Melissa, maybe you can piggyback, if you will, on, because this question just came in and I think it speaks perfectly to what it is that Tammy has shared. And what it is that you had talked about when it was, what does self-compassion mean to you right now? Not just thought, but in practice, because that right there about like replacing guilt with grace requires this idea of compassion of self, which sort of opens us up to an inquiry in challenging guilt and bringing in grace.
Yeah, exactly. So we want to let reality be real. Don't question it. And ask what would help instead of saying what's causing it, say what can help it. And I think that makes a change in the way you look at it. Because, you know, questioning why it's there isn't going to help you, but coming up with something that can actually help with it and giving yourself that goal. And it can be something really small, right? And then I want you to lower the bar. Don't set yourself up for failure. So what's really important is if you have to do activities of daily living with your loved one and it's really hard, don't set yourself up for failure and say, we're going to do a shower 4 days a week. Let's do twice a week, right? So we want you to be able to do something that can be preventative in some ways for both of you from having those moments. And then, you know, when those things, when you're hurting, those feelings are there. I want you to just sit with them, let them hurt. Don't try and say, this is a part of growth. This is a part of me being a caregiver. Try and find a reason for it. Just let it be. You're allowed to have emotions. Like you said, we're humans. We're not robots. And we need to be in those moments and just experience them sometimes. Because if we always try to fix them, it's almost like bottling it up. And so that only leads to more stress and anxiety in the background that's going to build up, and we're going to have more blow up emotions, right? Where it's all just going to come to a head. And of course, you know, as Tammy had said, we want to really make sure that we're being neutral with ourselves and being honest. You know, have someone talk to yourself like you want to talk to your kids or your parents, right? And then the last thing I want you to do is choose relief over improvement. So I want you to trust in the care that you're doing and not try to sabotage yourself. You know, we're not perfect. Things aren't going to be perfect. And there's ways to simplify and get support, leaning out to different resources and whatever that might be, whether it's a human tool or technology. But I want you to look at self-compassion is giving yourself permission to be human without earning it, and responding to yourself and the support that you can get from everyone around you.
You just said something that really got me. And I hope everyone really lets this one get you tonight. And I think it goes in tandem with something you said about how heroic it is to not always be in this human doing. And allowing yourself to really embrace what it means to be a human being and sit with things and allow things to hit us and touch us and move us and allow all of it, the feels, as we love to say, allow all the feels. You know, it reminds me so much of something I read about years and years ago. And I'm always looking for, like, if you could find one practice, and there's so many practices. And Melissa, when you think about this idea of self-compassion, one of the practices that I've really, really engaged myself with and certainly recommend to a lot of my patients and patient's family is the research that's come out of Stanford on the loving kindness meditation, which is a Buddhist meditation that's connected to self-compassion. And there's literally somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 different studies that have underscored the power of self-compassion. And what's so beautiful about the loving kindness practice is it gives us permission to literally be guided to deepen that experience of acceptance of self and bringing in compassion, which feels like it's like a doing, but it's actually more of a being. And I think probably you see this all the time, Melissa, with your background, be like, well, what do I do? And you say, you know what? I just want you to be. And people are like, oh gosh, being is hard. Give me something to do, because caregivers are doers. How do you help to coach them to be?
I really ask them to look at the person they're with, and I
Mm.
want them to think of a tree trunk. And we all have the rings in a tree trunk. And on this journey with someone who has dementia, the outer rings start to go away. But those inner rings, the heartwood of that tree, never go away. So I want you to learn what that person's heartwood is and share those moments with them.
Heartwood.
Because, I have a client I've been with for 9 years, and I know that her heartwood is hymns, women's rights, and equal civil rights and equal rights. And so 3 years ago, she had salad language. She's in the later stages. And I said to her, you're not going to believe what happened this week. She just kind of looked at me, giving me eye contact. And I said, they overturned Roe v. Wade. And she looked at me and went, what the hell are they going to do next? And it was the clearest sentence I had heard in probably like 2 years from her. And so I know if I bring up a program about stuff like that, or John Lewis or different things, she will answer yes or no questions in the very late stages. And her kids are like, how do you do that? And I'm like, because that's her heartwood. That's who she is. It resonates with her. And so I think those things are important to find what those pieces are. And you can be in the moment with them, because it's going to resonate and they're going to engage. And so, it's not an easy thing to do. Everyone goes, I don't know how you do it because I can't figure it out. I'm like, well, it's just a lot of, back history with family. I've gone on the genealogy sites to look up someone's history if the family doesn't know it, to learn more about them. But I just get really creative in that because I want to give them back those moments. They're still in there. They're in there till the end. And I want to keep getting that out. And so that's how I live in the moment with them, instead of being a task doer. So,
Oh, gosh, that heartwood.
mm-hmm.
Oh, that image, indestructible, right?
Yeah.
Like the center, the core.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that one of the things I've been learning about being with you all and learning from Kensington and being around my dear friend Susan is that something that comes up a lot, and of course it does. This is the essence of what it is that we are doing and being a part of in caregiving in this community, and its relationship to grief. And how, Monica, I'd love to ask you, because of your background in leading and teaching and facilitating, a question came in, and I think this is your heartwood, if I may even suggest this. I sometimes find myself so stuck in the grief of this disease that I cannot enjoy the present. What tools do you suggest I incorporate into my day to help me move forward?
Thank you for that question. It's a hard question. I think it's because this disease is a disease of grief, and it's not just, oh, somebody passed away from a heart attack and you have to deal with that grief. Like, you are dealing with grief every day in terms of the little losses that occur. In my support group today, this woman was saying that her dad, for the first time over the holidays, got her and her daughter confused. And she says, yeah, my daughter looks just the way we look, exactly alike, but obviously like 25 years apart. And she was just like, but it was that moment of that grief of, oh my gosh, like my dad doesn't know that I'm his daughter. And so you see, it's like all these little grief is all throughout the disease. It's not just at the finality of it or at a diagnosis of it. And I think caregivers so often get caught up in it because, when does this disease often hit? When people are later in their life, or right at the point where they're starting to plan their next phase of, we've worked so hard all these years and now we're going to go travel the world. We never traveled because we saved. And now that money is going to have to be spent to care. And it's not going to be able to be used in the way that they want. So it's, I think, going back to the word that you used at the beginning, Dr. James, that Tammy has used, again, grace. I think that is our theme word for this session, is grace. Write that on your mirror in your bathroom, to give yourself that grace every day. But I say it's about, like, again, touching on what Melissa said too, like, give yourself time to grieve. Go for it, but time it. Don't have it be all encompassing. And allow yourself every morning to sort of make the intention of, today is a good day. Today is, there's this phrase I remember when my son was little, it was like, today is a good day for a good day. Today I'm going to do good. Like, it's like, today is a good day for a good day. So that's what we're going to try to aim for every day. And how can we keep that going? So whether it's some sort of morning pause and not just reaching for your phone. There's research about literally grounding yourself every morning, getting up out of bed, putting both feet on the floor, and really feeling that grounding, and how that can be a positive start to your day. Because we don't know what's going to happen in 5 minutes, and we don't know what's going to happen later in the day. But what you know is right now. And so how can you turn the right now moment into a moment that might be able to sustain you later? And if you catch yourself in these moments of grief and where you're feeling overwhelmed, just stop everything. Acknowledge it. Again, I think we live in a society where we push everything down because I don't feel. Because you know what we do? If we feel, it might hurt. It might be uncomfortable. And people don't like that because we want to be in control. But as we said also earlier, it's like, we can't control this disease. It's the one thing that we know for sure, is that this is a journey that we can't control, but we can try to control the moments. So how, and again, this works differently for everybody. Is it a prayer practice? Is it a meditation? Is it just breathing? But always coming back to whatever your safe space might be, to be able to allow that as your sort of like your moment to set yourself up for a positive day, and to say, hey, grief, you're there. I know that you are here. I am well aware of the fact that you are existing, but not right now. I'll give you time later, but not right now. Because it's still something that has to be addressed. We can't push it down, but it's finding time. And I think that's something that probably our society just struggles with in general, right? Because we're not supposed to grieve. We're not supposed to be sad. Even if your loved one passes away, and then years later, like, oh, it's been like 3 years now. It should be better. You're like, no, it's still 3 years, and it's like, it's still my love, my relationship. So allowing ourselves to, like, yes, grief should be part of our life, but it's try not to make it be all encompassing. So find the practice that you can use where it's the reminder that, yep, nope, not right now. Like, and again, that's different for everybody. Is it a moment outside? But when you catch yourself almost overwhelmed with it, make the conscious decision to step out of that.
My goodness, Monica, there's so many things that you shared. The one that really hits, I believe, is so much of, I think, what we associate with grief is we give ourselves like you said, it's been 3 years. Like, shouldn't you be over this already? Or shouldn't this be in relationship to what we think is an appropriate grieving period? And because I know of your work, I did a little extra work around it. And this is interesting. And it speaks, this is a study that I was reading about the layered nature of caregiving and its relationship to grieving. And they talked about this idea called anticipatory grief, which I know you know all about. And it's as we lose loved ones in stages. And that experience, we also do it in ourselves. We lose parts of ourselves in stages through the course of the disease. And this experience of anticipatory grief, oh my goodness, it is exhausting. And it's pulling from us and these other resources that we use to navigate. And it talks about how in these experiences of anticipatory grief, there's actually a reshaping of our brain. Structurally, our brain is changing through the grieving experience. They talked about if we don't allow it, to your point, Monica, if we don't give it time to acknowledge it and be with it, if we suppress it, it actually turns our grieving into a deeper type of depression
Mhm.
and associated with leading to a deeper type of burnout where we literally don't have the ability to feel, to love, to recover, to grieve.
And like you think about it, like throughout all of our lives, we've all been faced with impossible tasks. Times that we're just like, I have no idea what I'm doing. We're way out of our comfort zone. But where we find ourselves to be able to grow the most is when we at least attempt those. We still may fail. We're not saying that we're going to like get this all down pat. But we're attempting and we're trying. And from that, we see growth. And so in caregiving, there's going to be times where you're just like, I can't believe that this is what I'm faced with. Like, how did I get here? Like my husband, we're supposed to live this life and these dreams of the grief of what the anticipatory grief, exactly. Like what isn't the hopes and the dreams, but finding that you can reshape it and it's just going to look different.
Hmm.
Just because you have a dementia diagnosis doesn't mean it's over. It's just now different.
Mhm.
And so how can you still live this life and find joy? Because there's still so much joy to be had. But if you're all encompassed in the grief, then you're not going to find that.
That is such an important distinction because when we speak to metabolizing of grief and how do we work with it and work through it, there's this idea that and it goes back to something Tammy was talking about. I think Melissa, I mean, this is something we've all been sharing, naming what we're feeling, naming it,
Mhm.
calling it out, bringing it to the forefront of what it is that's moving in our life right now versus you said suppressing it or denying it or not looking at it. And they talk about how, and I say the researchers who spend their time looking at grief and looking at the metabolizing of grief, it's stepping into it and allowing it to be felt. And I think that's something to your point, Monica, that's so hard for a society right now where, we're in the human highlight reel of Instagram, social media. Tell us all the good things that are happening. Show us all the good things. And we've lost connection to the vulnerability and the realness of life. And in particular, with this disease experience of the real vulnerability and the real hard things that are happening. But in that experience of sharing and naming to tame, herein lies how we metabolize grief and continue to move. And in lie, it's so interesting. And I would never, here I will because I feel safe. There's a joy in this. There's a joy in allowing ourselves to feel what we're feeling.
Mhm.
There's a freedom and a comfort of
Mhm.
naming it and being with it.
Mhm.
Without judgment, without criticism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a feeling. Sometimes we have to feel to be able to embrace.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's an interesting distinction that I've often talked about with patients, talked myself into when I needed to hear it, the distinction between happiness and joy. Happiness, obviously, very conditional, right? When things are
Mhm.
going well, then
Mhm.
I can have my happiness. But joy is an essence of spirituality. It's when we're living in our truth and experiencing all of life. There's an essence there that's lighter because we're simply honoring what is. And Lisa, because I know you and I love you, and this question I feel is so perfect, if I may ask this of you. Um, on the journey that you've had with your husband, Gary, that you shared earlier, you began to learn and to realize that there's a really fine line between hope and fear. I would love to know what you mean by that because I think that's something that's not, I'm not saying universally, but my goodness, how many of us are walking in that space right in between the razor's edge of hope and fear?
Yeah. Yeah. This is all such a rich conversation. And I remember a moment, it was my husband was 55, and even though we started seeing neurologists, it was 5 years in, and he lost a job as an attorney. And I remember saying to myself, and it was so many little subtle changes always, but already, but we didn't have an answer yet. And I just remember saying, don't look down. And 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 kind of a metaphor of being on a tight wire
Mm.
and realizing that I was walking between hope and fear. And I just remember, and it made me very present. And I'm a big believer in being present. And that's all we have control over. And there was a tool I remember because I would get even after he was diagnosed 2 years later, and he lost before he lost, I mean, after he lost another job. And so there were a lot of times when I've just felt like my world was falling apart. Our world was falling apart. And there was a, I just, I was talking to, I would get down because financially we were struggling at the time. And I've talked to so many family caregivers about this paralysis we'll get because of the fear or a stuckness. And I had a coach, colleague, and friend when I was down. And I remember kind of having a visual of when I was really down and stuck, especially at the end of the month when all the bills were due or about ready to be due, or what decisions to make. And he said to me, the only way out of a hole is to make a request, because I was telling him about feeling like I was at the bottom of the well looking up and there was the sky. And what he means by that, and I've used this analogy, and it's a tool we can all use. The only way out of a hole is to make a request, which is meaning when we're stuck, if we just reach out and take an action, it can shift our geography, even taking a walk, reaching out to a friend, making a call to make a hair appointment, or committing to something else bigger than ourselves. We can shift and move forward. It may only last 2 hours, but it is these practices that of each moment that's all we have control over, is how we react to something. And I the way I got into this work that I do now is that it was born out of frustration and confusion and fear and being the main provider and moving forward. And when we are in fear and frustration, frustration is a wonderful motivator, as is anger sometimes, because the next step is courage. And out of courage becomes we can engage. And if we can think about those steps, which relate to everything we're talking about today. But it was such a gift for me to get into this work 14 years ago, because I got to use my vulnerability, my personal values. I want to be the person that I didn't have along the way. And I think we're all in service of this growing population of caregivers that everyone is so hungry for our experience. And I always say everything I learned is in the rearview mirror.
Mm.
And it's very important to be able to share that. And the bond that over the years that I've had with families, I mean, literally hearing once they get on the phone, their shoulders drop and say, "Oh my God, you get it." And the more vulnerable I am, the more comes back to me. So the heartwood,
Mm.
the authenticity, Yeah.
Thank you, Lisa. Oh my goodness. I think there's so many things that you have given us through that experience and your experience with your husband, Gary. And I think the thing that a lot of us, and listening to Monica and listening to Tammy, Melissa, and you, and I think a lot of us, certainly in the caregiving world, we think about the window of time that we have, right? Like, my goodness, how long is this going to take for me to care for myself? My
Mhm.
life is so full with all the caring I'm giving outside. Where do I find these moments? And a book that I'd really encourage everyone to read here in this community, and I know a lot of you know this book, it's called Love 2.0. It's written by Barbara Fredrickson. She's a doctor at UNC Chapel Hill. And she's basically, her whole world is built around something called micro moments of heart resonance. So she's sort of like love at the speed of life, what you're referring to, Lisa, when you have these moments, what you were saying, Tammy. It's like, I think sometimes when we're in the world of caring and our whole world revolves around caring, we think, oh my gosh, I can't carve out even a moment. Well, what's so beautiful about Barbara's work, and I think this work around ritual from Lisa Miller at Columbia, and what Susan and I were talking about earlier, there are micro moments where magic, if we can call it that, mysticism, love, uh, predictable joy and peace and love will happen. And what Barbara's work has told us, as little as 20 to 30 seconds of connecting eye to eye with someone you love, yourself in a mirror, and at checkout, getting a coffee in the morning. If all we do is go into that interaction, going, I'm going in with love. We have 4 chambers in our heart. And I think a lot of us in the caregiving space sometimes, oh my gosh, I'm feeling half-hearted today. I've just got half a heart today. I'm tired. I'm scared. I'm feeling fear. I'm feeling resentment, whatever it might be. But if we even just can, just for 30 seconds, go bringing in all 4 chambers, what we know is that can carry ourselves for hours. Structurally, that will change us. Physiologically, it'll raise dopamine, more motivation, more confidence, lower the inflammatory markers that cortisol is associated with. So I think for all of us, and just what you've shared with us today has given us opportunities to think about, oh my goodness, this can be an incremental, as they say in Japanese medicine, kaizen, incremental, slow changes over time is how we create a life that we love. We often think it has to go from here to here. But Kaizen is those incremental shifts that we make over time. 14 years you've been doing this service work, Lisa, and the things that you learn every day, those micro moments of heart resonance. And I think for all of us, and hopefully now, Susan, you're going to come in and share some of the things that are coming in from our guest tonight. It really hopefully offers all of us an opportunity to say, gosh, I love the idea of vulnerability and feeling safe about talking about the work at hand. I love feeling that I can express my openness, that I'm a student of this. I don't need to be an expert. I can be a student. Herein lies how we heal, not needing to be right, but needing to be love, first and foremost for ourselves. Susan, thanks for coming back in.
Well, I was actually looking in the mirror, hugging myself. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I'm late, but my goodness, wowza. That was magic, at a minimum. And I really hope our audience shares this with friends and family so you can continue this conversation. I actually can't wait to get a copy of this, which all of you will, to share with my friends and family, because we are all caregivers in some capacity of our lives. This is not just, both my parents had dementia, but we are all caregivers in some capacity. And I think you should listen again and again to the wisdom of these 5 people because I can't wait to listen to it again. But one question did come in, and this is interesting for everybody. If you practice grace often, does it become easier like muscle memory? Okay, I have some nods. I have some nods. Okay, then that's the answer.
Well, Susan, and then I'll just get out of the way, but it goes back to something that I think when Tammy and I were passing to one another, it's this whole idea of something called neuroplasticity, right? It's our brain evolves based on what we're thinking about or what we're practicing. So the more we're practicing grace, our structural changes, they call it myelin a lot, like muscle memory is myelin. So we are laying down more myelin, and it becomes easier to be graceful. It becomes easier to be grace filled. Over time, we become more of grace as we practice it. As a student, not trying to be an expert, not trying to have a fixed mindset, but having this idea of being a student. So that's the beauty. I think everyone here would say experiences of this practice, has it changed your life to allow you to become who you are here?
It
Well,
makes us kinder. The
Mhm.
oh,
kinder
and
we are
doesn't
to
the world
ourselves,
need more kindness?
Mhm.
you
Thank the
know.
butcher for that great cut of meat he gave you, or the the recipe that you got from Annie Fenn. I mean, I just think that let's leave with that. But we're unfortunately out of time, but this is to be continued. And our next caregiving expert webinar will be on April 14th. And the comments coming in are just thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And so I will just parrot that and say thank you so much. And thank you to Kensington Senior Living. Everybody be safe, take care of your health, and take care of yourselves. Happy New Year.
Happy
Thanks.
New Year. Thank you, everyone.